Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear brothers and sisters of Islam channel across the Muslim world, we are edging closer towards the Hajj. The anticipation in the Haram is reaching fever pitch. People are now getting into the mood of the Hajj itself, which is only now a few days away. Only a few days away, then people will be entering the state of Ihram again. They will be going towards Mina. They will be readying themselves for the day, which is the standing on the day of Arafah is actually the Hajj itself. And everything that comes after us, the stoning, the Jamrat, it's all coming together. And inshallah, live and exclusive on Islam channel on the Saturday, that's the day of Arafah. And for you viewers at home, on the Sunday we'll have the Eid, but for us there's no Eid. We will carry on the rites of Hajj. Alhamdulillah, today I'm joined by my guest. I have Sheikh Ridwan here on my right. Alhamdulillah, Assalamu alaikum Sheikh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I got brother Zubair from Dome Tours.
Assalamu alaikum
Wa alaikum salam. And I've got Sheikh Idris on my left here.
Assalamu
Wa
alaikum.
alaikum salam. So I'll start with Sheikh Ridwan. Sheikh, if you would like to introduce yourself and tell our viewers about yourself and sunny Glasgow.
Yeah, so I'm the educational director of an Islamic Studies course called iSyllabus. It's an adults course which has been running in over 10 cities in the UK, in universities, teaching Islamic studies for adults. So I'm the educational director of that, author of that, and alhamdulillah we've had over I think 7,000 students going through the courses over the last 10 years. We've also produced an Islamic studies course from 11 to 16-year-olds. For school children, you know that education for young children is very much a necessity, and there's very little in English for young children in Islamic studies. So we've also produced the first Islamic studies course for children as well. And Zubair is actually the author of that. So we focus on education, Islamic education in English for people, so they can communicate their faith to other people.
So what brings you to the Hajj?
Alhamdulillah, what brings you to Hajj? I was here in 2001, and what brought me to the Hajj was this intense desire to go to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and recreate the call of the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, which is adhin fin nasi bil Hajj. Allah told the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or the Prophet Ibrahim, pronounce and proclaim to the people the Hajj. The Hajj is the qasd ila al-mu'azzam. It's the movement towards the magnanimous presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is majestic. So we're here, and you look in the background, it's majestic, it takes your breath away. There's very little beauty, there's a lot of majesty here.
When Ibrahim al-Islam was told to proclaim the Hajj, he was literally looking around saying, who am I actually telling this to? And what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell him?
Adhin wa alayhi al-balagh.
Yes.
So you proclaim, and it's upon us to get people to come. You know, this is an amazing thing. You can imagine what went through his mind. Who am I speaking to? What am I proclaiming? Why am I doing this? We see the reality today where people come and they get this urge and desire to come and recreate the footsteps of the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. And I was speaking to people today about the fact they're going to run the tawaf and they can't get the meaning of it. And I said the meaning comes when Allah decides you want the meaning for it. You're going around and doing something that seems so beyond understanding, going around a piece of stone, running between two mountains. The understanding that comes when Allah decides that comes into your heart. So our worship is to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and not to think too much about these things. Recreate so that we start to understand submission.
I have to ask the question, if you know the secret of that, can you share it with us? What's the meaning?
The qasd, the Hajj means qasd. And if I think of anything about Hajj that people need to know is, it's the intent, the deep intent to go towards the presence of the majestic. That's the only thing they need to do. Once you get there, your invitation is there, and what happens there, how you're dealt with, the challenges that you have, and the experiences that you will be given are up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's part of Tawheed, is La ilaha illallah, is that there's no God except Allah, but also there's no power that brings into presence spiritual experiences, happiness, sadness, except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is why, you know, the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, one of the things in the Quran it's mentioned that he said is, Innahu huwa adhaka wa abka, is God that makes you laugh and makes you cry. Wa innahu huwa amata wa ahya, is he who gives life and he who gives death. So one of the amazing things about Hajj is to understand that everything that happens on earth, whether it's political, whether it's cultural, whether it's spiritual, cannot happen except unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills it. And these days the Muslims are living in, it's very important we don't lose sight of the fact that that is what's happening. Allah is in charge of where history is going.
We're not in control.
We're not in control. We shouldn't worry too much. We should make sure what we do is correct according to the Sharia of the
Well,
Prophet.
I have a little theory. I mean, obviously we base Islam on the lunar calendar, and that keeps on changing. Some days it could be 29, it could be 30, and that's where we have a lot of our arguments and disagreements around the Ramadan, around the starting of Dhul Hijjah, etc. But my theory is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is keeping us on our toes. So there you got the you've got the solar calendar, I mean the Gregorian calendar, and everything is very organized, it's very fixed, it's very firm. You know, these are the dates and that's it. But with Muslims, it's like it could be this day, it could be that. And when I talk to my English friends and colleagues, they say, "What do you mean it could be this day, it could be that day?" It's like, no, is it this day or is it that day? I said, I don't know.
So we're not in control.
We're not in control.
MashaAllah.
And I think a lot of people, they kind of fear not being in control. And especially when you have around 2.5 to 3 million people, you're not in control.
It's about obedience. When the Prophet Ibrahim was asked to slaughter and sacrifice his son, he was not in control. When Hajra was made to run between Safa and Marwa, she was not in control. But when you come to the realization you're not in control, Allah gives you control. That's the amazing thing, is that once you leave trying to make things the way you want them, Allah will give you the controls to make things happen the way that pleases Him, inshallah.
Inshallah. Now I've got Sheikh Idris here on my left hand side. Sheikh, so you're a revert to Islam. You converted when you were very young, around
I was 18.
18 years old. What gave you the compulsion to become a Muslim at that very young age?
Well, that's a funny story, because the reason I ended up studying Arabic, I studied Arabic at Leeds University, and I was supposed to be studying ancient history there. And I flunked my A-levels. I was supposed to get A, B, B. I ended up getting C, C, D, I think. So I phoned the university, and we were the last year to get free education.
Right.
I
remember that.
Yeah. So everyone wanted to go to university just to get a bit of independence. So that's what I was really looking for. And then I phoned the university and I said, look, I haven't got the grades, what can you give me? And they said, all we can offer you is Chinese, Russian or Arabic. So I said, oh, just give me the Arabic. And so I ended up in the Arabic department, and I met Muslims for the first time, because I'm from Maidstone, Kent. There weren't many Muslims there when I was growing up. And I saw men with beards, long beards for the first time, women with scarves on their heads. And I thought I was in an Amish farmers convention. You know, I had no idea. I was completely culturally out of my depth. And then a friend of mine, first and foremost, I got that independence, and it wasn't really what I was looking for. I felt really empty, and I was looking for guidance. I just said, I need someone to tell me what to do. And then a friend of mine from back home, he hung himself. And so I just reached out to the Muslims and I said, does your religion give you some sort of peace and guidance? And they said, yes, it does. And I said, Bismillah. Well, I didn't say Bismillah, but I said, let's try your faith. And then within a year, I was in Fez, Morocco for my second year of my studies. I'd just become Muslim, and my whole life changed.
So you flunking your A-levels changed your life?
Oh yeah, most definitely.
So that's a good story. Anyone who's A-level results are gonna come out and say, look, this
well, yeah, I do
Sheikh
teach that.
Idris has told me that he changed his life. So
yeah, sometimes, like we're saying, sometimes you don't know. Sometimes you think you need something, and when it goes awry, then you think everything's falling away, like collapsing in front of you, and really Allah's in control. And He knows where He's taking
so
it.
So you actually serve the community of Keighley itself. What do you actually do there?
Well, Keighley's sort of a base for me. I'm partially active there, but I'm more active in Bradford, Blackburn, Leeds, and Manchester, because I teach I'm a founder of an organisation called Quranic Circle, where I teach Arabic programs focused on connecting people to the language and the beauty of the Quran. So I teach that there, and I teach that online as well.
So what is the beauty of the Quran?
Well, it's in the tasting. And so the thing is, we lose so much of the nuances of the revelation when we're not in touch with the language. And we believe as Muslims that Allah chose this language because it holds divine meaning.
Is it true that in Jannah, the language spoken in Jannah will be Arabic, Sheikh?
Is
that true?
The person who's So this is
Because we're
question
not
of-
fluent. I
of
know
J-
means
of
we are not
Javeed.
fluent in Arabic, but is
It's
Jan-
questionable, that tradition.
Is
yes,
it
it's very
questionable?
questionable. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm pleased we agree
I
with
put
that.
you on the spot there. What's the language of Jannah? That's a good question.
We'll find out.
You see in the Quran, Allah says, وَلَهُمْ مَا يَشَاءُونَ فِيهَا وَلَدَيْنَا مَزِيدٌ.
Yeah.
That in paradise you have whatever you desire, and we have an increase. So the Turks, onlar neler diyecek? The
Yeah.
Pakistanis, okay, you know, all these people have beautiful languages. They want to express themselves, and the people that speak pure Arabic, they will express themselves in pure Arabic. So Allah is Kareem. Whatever's in a person's heart, they will speak that, inshallah.
So it's like when the Sahaba came up to the Prophet ﷺ, said that if I go Jannah, I want to farm. And he said to the Prophet ﷺ, I want to farm. And he goes, the Prophet ﷺ turned around and said to him, if that's what you want, then you will be a farmer. So again, Allah gives. What
Allah is
you want.
generous. Allah is generous.
SubhanAllah. So come back to.
But that hadith, the problem, people say, well, I don't need to do Arabic because I'll be able to speak it in Jannah. I say, well, the hadith is da'if.
Okay,
So,
is it?
I think we're not sure about that, but we're sure in this life you can learn it.
Yeah, definitely in this life. If we get to Jannah, that's everything will
Just
be.
go on QuranicCircle.com
and you'll be ready. Alhamdulillah. So in terms of Islam in Bradford, Keighley, do you find that there's a high need for teaching Arabic and teaching the Muslims there? Because there's a high population of Muslims there.
Well, where there's a high population of Muslims, there's also a lot, unfortunately, there's a lot of people that don't really have a grasp of their faith. It's very much based in, and not dismissing culture, culture's part of our life, but when it becomes blurred and people are confused about what's right and what's wrong and how to distinguish whether my culture is actually taking me away from my religion, people need clarity, and so I teach Arabic in order for people to really gain a real grasp of an appreciation of what the faith is really teaching them. And that's my intention. It's a spiritual experience. It's not just an academic experience. When you're studying the Arabic, it's about tasting the beauty of the Arabic so that you feel a connection to God. Because this is what I noticed amongst the Muslim community, is many of us have an identity as a Muslim, but we don't have a relationship with Allah as a Muslim.
But do you think that those people who have Arabic as their mother tongue, they don't appreciate what they have?
No, because that's what people appreciate when they study the course I do, is that we're going into the depths of what words mean. So even a simple word like kitab, you say it means a book, but in the Quran it has numerous meanings, and I go into the nuances of what that word means. It can mean obviously the preserved tablet, it can be what's been ordained by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how in one verse that can convey all those meanings. And so when we translate, we end up having to limit the meaning of the verse. But when we're reading it, engaged with it, all these meanings, the imagination of the Muslim, as they're understanding all these nuances, they're drawing all these multiple meanings at once. And it's an amazing experience.
Alhamdulillah. You're here with Dome Tours and as one of the sheikhs and a spiritual guide for the people coming from the UK. How important is it that you have a spiritual guide, you have someone who knows what they're doing, and what's the kind of normal day-to-day issues you're facing with people during the Hajj itself?
I think first and foremost, I came 11 years ago with my wife, and we didn't have really anyone, and so the experience was amazing. Sheikh Rizwan, what he touched upon about you just have to let go, and then the experiences come. Allah what brings up from within you emotions and experiences and understandings that you wouldn't even imagine. But it makes such a big difference when you've got someone with you, with your group, to be able to contextualize things for you. And I think that's the biggest struggle. We live in a very materially focused society today, and many of these ancient rites, people struggle to really connect because everything's a cognitive exercise. And like Sheikh Rizwan was saying, is that you just have to let go, and then it comes from a much deeper place, your understanding. But it helps so much when you've got guides that, first of all, reducing your anxiety, because when everyone comes here, they just want to perform, make sure they're doing everything right. But with that comes a sense of an element of anxiety. So first and foremost, is you've got someone to say it's okay. Even if you hadn't made a mistake, we can solve that for you. That's the first thing I'm doing when people come, is like, everyone chill out, don't push yourselves too hard, and just reminding people that it's a process. It's not suddenly I've got to do things and these expectations. The community often fall into that, this pressure of doing perfection.
I think when people come from to do the Hajj itself, they are performing these rites, but they're performing them robotically. So I must tick this box, I must tick that box,
Yeah.
and I think sometimes people leave the spirituality behind. So Sheikh Ridwan, how important is the spirituality side of the Hajj itself for the Hujjaj who are coming?
I mean, the Ramadan, we all understand the dichotomy between spirit and body in Ramadan, because we're nourishing the spirit. The body diminishes. The more it diminishes, the more the spirit is given strength. And it's the same thing here. What we maximize in Hajj is meaning, not the actual actions themselves, but the meaning behind it, the submission behind them, and that again feeds the spirit. And so when we go back after having done this, I was speaking to somebody, about how do we know whether our Hajj is accepted or whether it's beneficial to us. One of the ways is that Hassan al-Basri radiallahu anhu said that it's the Hajj al-Mabrur, which is an accepted Hajj, is that you return back in your day-to-day life zahidun fi dunya raghibun fil akhirah, that you go having less care for the world and a desire for the hereafter. In other words, every single life choice you have after you go back from Hajj is now based upon a different set of principles. So when you have a choice in your life, are you looking to see whether it's good for you in your hereafter or this life? That's the criteria through which you judge. And that means your spirit has been enriched. That means that it's worked. That means the whole purpose of coming here has worked. If you find that you go back and the opposite is the same, or exactly the same thing that you did before you came is the same now, it means that the Hajj and the spirit has not been nourished. And that's why the spiritual means are so important. To cast the stones to a piece of stone is just an action, but the meaning behind it is to cast out all of the machinations of the shaitan, also your nafs as well. When you're doing that, to sacrifice the animal when you're sacrificing the day of sacrifice is partly to sacrifice your own intent and intention and choice and things and leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And to go to Arafat is to lose yourself and come to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Arafat is to also come to know something, but also to smell the scent of something sweet. So all these things are very, very deep. The meanings are very deep. And this is why Sheikh Idris was saying that this society is one that has dismissed ancient rites. That's very important, because we are a community that holds on to ancient rites. Going to Arafat in a barren desert setting and just waiting for God's forgiveness, knowing that the Prophet ﷺ said that Allah is looking upon the people on the day of Arafat and he's boasting to the angels and saying, ماذا أراد هؤلاء? What are these people wanting? And the hadith says it's يُبَاهِي بِهِمُ الْمَلَائِكَةِ. God boasts. The reason God is boasting is because the angels questioned God's wisdom in creating Bani Adam. Because he said they will spill blood, they will spread mischief, they will create havoc on earth. But they didn't know what Allah knew, which is that they will also submit themselves to God's command in the way that they do it on Laylatul Qadr. In the same way that they do it, the Prophet said that Abdullah ibn Umar, he prayed Maghrib and he waited for Isha, and the Prophet left and he ran back and he came to Abdullah ibn Umar and said, Inna Allah yubahi bikumul malaika. Allah is boasting about your action of waiting for the prayer to the angels, because you could have gone home, you could have enjoyed whatever you wanted to enjoy, but you're waiting for the prayer. So this is a time when the spirit is enriched, and it's enriched to the point that God boasts to the angels. And we don't see that, but we know that. We were told that by the Prophet ﷺ.
SubhanAllah. We're just about to head in for a break, inshallah. Then after the break, inshallah, we will catch Brother Zubair. I know that you will be spiritually enriched by all the people coming up to you and quizzing you, because I know what it feels to be like for a guide. It's a lot of pressure to organize things, and I think a lot of guides, they want to do right by the people, because this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for the Hujjaj, and to serve them is an important thing, inshallah. So inshallah, please do join us after the break, inshallah, where we'll continue this conversation with our sheikhs, and I'm sure that they do want to stay and explain the spirituality of the Hajj itself, inshallah. So join us after the break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.